Welcome to the Tech Beyond Gender podcast. I'm your host, Meena Satishkumar. And today I'm delighted to introduce my dear friend, Indu, a Senior Payroll Systems Analyst in Ministry for Children in New Zealand. Indu is a dedicated mom of two bright boys and an active volunteer involved in various community initiatives in Wellington, New Zealand. Like many women, Indu took a significant career break to focus on her growing family. With remarkable resilience and consistent effort, she re entered the workforce in late 2016, securing a role at Datacom. Since then, she has made tremendous strides in her career. This episode is especially for young migrant moms who feel tied down by family commitments and are unsure on how to restart their careers, particularly with limited connections and networking opportunities. Welcome to the podcast, Indu, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
So very thank you, Meena. And it's a privilege to be here with you. A friend, and you have also been a great inspiration, not just in not as a career, not just as a career person, but also we have connected through Art of Living, and you are a great inspiration that way. So it's a joy to be here with you and to discuss, one of the favorites, probably something that I personally, voice up for people. So it's a joy to be here and to be discussing things with you.
Thank you. So, Indu, let's start by taking a step back to your early days in India. Can you share a bit about your life growing up, your education, and what eventually led you to move to New Zealand?
Life in India, it's feels like a long time ago, because been calling New Zealand home for almost 2 decades now. Not there, like probably another 2 years, and I think we'll be hitting the 2 decades mark. But India is what made me, like that. It comes with all its challenges. Like it's a big country, and your survival, it's a fight there. So particularly being a woman, it's a big fight. So as you said, you build a lot of resilience, a lot of skills which comes with that. Started off, I'm not, I would say, if I would if I put myself in the education system in India, I wouldn't be probably called the brightest student, because the education system in India was not something which my brain fitted with. So not probably considered as the brightest student to their norms, but I think I was always someone who was different. Always who always would think out of the box, somebody who was always a rebel against whatever kind of was imposed on me, I would rebel against it. So very tough childhood, and very tough time, like growing up in India, for the person that I was, the unique person that I was. And I think it was very hard for people who have come from a very patriarchal background to accept a woman who'd only live by her own rules, even as a child. I think, I grew up doing that. So I think I have lots of if I would talk about memories, I think I have more very hard and emotional memories, about my struggles. I think, if I would think back about it. But I think that is what has made me who I am, and that is what has given me what I enjoy in this country today. So that has also made me capable. So I think it's always two sides of the same coins. So being in India, got married as early as I was 18, 19. Became a mom in less than the first year, soon after my marriage, before even I celebrated my anniversary, I was a mom. Didn't know a thing about, I loved kids as such. I grew up in a big family, so I loved kids, but didn't know a thing about parenthood, because of myself being a child, just fresh out of my graduate from doing my business management course, fresh out of college, didn't have any support. As I said, a very difficult childhood. So I didn't have a very supportive family either. So being a new mom and having to deal with a difficult marriage, life was shit for the first 7 years after marriage, I would say. Lost all my confidence, lost who I was. lost my identity. From there, I think it was my struggle to fight for my rights, and to establish myself as an individual, fighting for my rights, fighting for basic rights. I'm not even talking about not even about like being a woman. It's about being a human first. Even that, right. I think when somebody has to struggle even for that, for your very basics, for breathing, breathing free, to talk free, and to express yourself free. So that's lots of pressure, particularly on a 18, 19-year-old, a 19-year-old who didn't even have exposure to the world as such. So that was that was me. And luckily, I I think probably it was probably because I had been gone and going through so much since childhood that I built that resilience, I think, to stand my ground and for fight for myself. And I think one of the biggest thing was that I felt I was worthy for being treated better. I think that was one of the biggest character. Even today, that's what I think. Like, when life gives you so much, so much, and then comes in like leaps and bounds towards you. I think one of the biggest thing that I do for myself is like, I think I'm worthy, and I'm worthy of better. So I stand my ground. So I'm thankful, to my creators, whoever it is, and whatever has come in my life, so that have just given me those qualities. So I'm really grateful for that. So yeah, moving from there, um, I had, I was able to get out of the marriage, get out of the community itself, like, and I married my best friend then. He gave me the way out, and had our first child. And when my older one, I mean, my boy was like about uh, first year, I think we celebrated his first year when we got to move to New Zealand due to his work. And here we were. Again, biggest challenge, next challenge before us, because me, it was a tough decision, like as to whether I'm to support my husband, let him grow, or, whether I should be like also progressing my career. But I think having grown in a family where I was not personally like grown up, like brought up by my mother, and I was always with my extended family. I think I wanted to prioritize my child, and I thought I am responsible for bringing this new life into the world. And I thought my response, they didn't ask to be born. So because I brought them into the world, I thought I had to prioritize them first and their well-being. So I thought, okay, I'll let my husband do, all the hard work of like, being the breadwinner and everything. And I decided to sit back and support, him from the behind, and also decided to like enjoy my motherhood. Being in a new country, again, it was difficult, quite difficult, because I think like every other immigrant, though I had very good education, had studied in good schools and stuff, but still language was a big barrier. So when I started off, particularly when I couldn't go out, I didn't go out extensively or like, meet people. It became a big barrier. Like, another thing is cultural difference, right? You come from, you're so very natural when you're around people from your own culture background, because you have like lots of common things to discuss about. And I see myself when I go out and say, let's say, like I'm going to my children's school, or when I go for their play center, and I find myself tongue-tied because I couldn't relate to like, what they're talking about. Like they would be talking about going to a party or a girls' night out, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I couldn't even relate to what it is because I didn't have that exposure. All that I could talk about probably was the weather. So for almost like until I started working, like in the first few years of my life, like when I go out, all that I could relate to people and talk to people was probably about weather, or about like, related anything that I could, related to my children, or those immediate things, because I was not somebody who had good, big exposure to sports either. So in being in New Zealand, most people do speak a lot about sports. Even there, I failed terribly because I didn't know much about much sports, and probably the only sport I could talk about was cricket, right? So, so there you go. Even there, I didn't have anything to talk about. So yeah, so lots of struggles, and like initial struggles. I would say like it became since I was staying home most of the time. It just not my social skills that got affected. It's even my basic things, like I couldn't carry myself like to walk on the street, for example, right? Like it basically the way it affects you as a person, just being stuck at home all the time and just doing like, around things only around your comfort zone, it kind of like takes all your skills away, not just your social skills. As I said, I even found it hard to even walk anywhere than other than my house, or my way to the school. If I do anything else different to what my regular things were, activities were, I would struggle. So it was such a big leap from doing all that, being stuck in, to coming out and trying to do things for myself. That was the biggest challenge, trying to prioritize myself for doing anything, because it's not about just the physical, like an emotional or physical drain that comes on you. It's also about this feeling of guilt, like, oh, am I leaving my child behind or my family behind to, find space for myself? Sometimes, it also comes with like, and I think it's the way that the cultural thing is, like it makes you feel guilty. Oh, am I doing the right thing? Trying to like, I'm going to study. Is it the right thing to do? My husband, he's like, he works hard. Is it going to become a burden on him because I'm going to study? So I would actually like, and when I also did my testing course like with Welltech, like I think it was a 6 months course. So while I was here, like being a mom, I also, tried to do lots of voluntary work, including at Art of Living, and I've worked with Mary Potter Hospice. So, and I've done a couple of like, lots of volunteering around. And also try to study so that like I don't lose touch with, because I always aspired, my thing was, okay, once my children start school, I'll be, I do want to go back to, doing something for myself. So that aspiration, I think, was always in the background. So try to do that. But as I say, that's when all this guilt comes in. Oh, can I do it? Should I do it? Is this necessary? Can I just not be happy being a mom? Lots of self-doubts and all these conflicts that comes in you because of all the differences that you are in the country that you are in, different, the culture here is different, and then you are a different person inside. So this constant conflicts that happened between who I was and who I wanted to be. I think it was like a big war, all time at war, having to contradict yourself sometimes. And I think the important thing was like, learning to accept, that you do have aspirations, and that, you do want to do something, and it's not wrong, that you have like uh, and I would say dreams for yourself, that it was not wrong to do so. And I think it became, for me, it became like, as a decision, when I started noticing that my children thought that mom is always somebody who's in the kitchen, doing things for them, cooking for them. And that kind of like got me thinking as to what kind of message am I sending to my children, because I know like I'm capable of more, and I've proved myself in many avenues, like doing what I did, that I'm not just an ordinary person, that I have other things that I'm capable of doing. But what am I actually telling my children? What am I actually, what is the message that I'm giving them? And what is that message that I'm actually like projecting to other people too about myself? Because there were many a times when like in the community, people say, because I have two children, I really love children, and I'm lovely around children. I do enjoy company of children, and I've done that from my very young age. So people would come and say me, oh, you're anyway taking care of children, why don't you just do childcare, why don't you just do that? I'm like, oh, well, I can't take care of my children, and that responsibility is different to when I do that as a job. And taking care of someone else's child is a bigger responsibility. And that comes with lots of challenges also. Do I have enough patience to actually take care of someone else's child, treat them as mine, and do the right thing with them? You know, like, can I do that? I said, when I look at myself that, and that's it, I said, that's not somebody, something that I can do. And I don't think, that is what I want to do either.
Mm.
So to jump from all that and to one find, as you said, I found myself, I think it's because of what, as I said, what I saw my children seeing me as, or what my husband, started to see me as somebody, I think comparison comes naturally when you see all other people around doing, managing their house and going to work, and then coming home to see somebody who is like just happy, just living, with your child and doing house. I think that kind of like also brought that revelation to me that what am I saying others, about
Mm.
myself? And am I happy there, with
Mm.
what I'm seeing, whatever the projection that I'm showing, am I happy with that? I understood that I'm not.
Mm.
So that's how I ended up with Datacom. Lucky that, because I think that was a big break for me, um, because payroll was not something that I've done ever. I mean, like I've done back in India, but payroll, like in New Zealand, is quite different from, because it's lots of legislations that that you need to comply with when you do payroll here in New Zealand. Whereas when I've done payroll and accounts back in India,
Mhm.
it's quite different. Like because of course, like in accountancy, you have your basic account, like all the accounting, standards and strategies that you need to follow. But when it comes to payroll, it was quite different there.
Mm.
It's of course we do have legislations there, but it's quite muddled up there. Whereas here you have, it's much more stringent and you need to follow it and you need to be compliant. So I think that was a great opportunity that I stepped into that world. And though, like when I started, I was thinking, am I really enjoying it? Is this what I wanted to do? Um, and I think like I am somebody who is always like, who is always challenged and who always wants to learn new things. I think probably because, and also somebody who also like, who was also like ready to accept things, which comes my way. So I thought, okay, let me start here, rather than doing nothing in here. I thought probably this is a great opportunity for my start. And when I look back at it, I think it was the best decision I made, because, I gained domain knowledge in a space which I didn't know anything about when I started off. So it was a great start, for me, as I said, from scratch, from knowing nothing to, in less than 2 years, becoming a pro in what I was doing. And so confident that, like I started, I know something which again New Zealanders don't do, jumping jobs every other year, because one of the, again, in a very related to the topics that we are speaking, what I see here, in New Zealand, one thing is, if you don't, it's like, only a crying baby gets fed, or gets milk, so same way, if you don't ask for it, you're not given anything.
Mm.
Right? Like people will see you just as a bum on the seat. If you don't challenge yourself, if you don't put yourself out there, then you're not seen, you know. So I think best thing that happened with me was I decided not to stay put, not to be in my comfort zone, not to stay with only things that kind of like in Datacom, I could have sat there doing the same thing for years together. But I said that's not what I wanted to do. So I
Mm.
wanted to jump. So yeah, so I've been jumping jobs every year. So I think like when any recruiter sees my CV, or when they see my LinkedIn profile, I think, this person probably is a good person to go to. I think that's how I became a favorite among recruiters, because I see people come to me probably because they see that I change job often, and then I do jump jobs, and probably they do think like I'm comfortable doing that. Not necessarily that I'm comfortable doing that, but I think it has helped me to grow up in my career really fast, and it actually like helped me sharpen my ability, like to learn. I mean, I always been a quick learner. I always have challenged myself to learn new things and stuff, but I think jumping jobs is what put me in a new business, each year, like before, I mean, by the time I have finished an anniversary in one organization, I'll probably have the next one to go to. And so, though mostly in the public sector, every public sector and their business is different. So having, in a new business, learning new things and with each of my role, and that basically, and learning different like systems too. So I think that's what has helped me to the role that I'm doing today. and
Mhm.
and I'm really, really grateful, like that the choices that I made, and all, and I should say with all those different jumps that I made, it was not easy, to manage to be in a new job each time, because it takes time to establish yourself, to people to even actually to trust you, you know, and being a mom and doing all this an 8 hours full job, and then coming to back to manage my family, particularly, that, like, my husband is also, heavily involved in the community to support that and whatever he does, and then to support the family, a growing, young family. And the job, it has been, I really, like, see myself as a juggler, like people, like, somebody who juggles the balls. So I don't know how I have been doing it, but somehow, probably all these different factors that I talked about
Mhm.
has helped me to be here today. So I sometimes wonder, what am I doing? It's sometimes a big amazement to myself. Wow, I've done this, I've done so far, come so far from what I've done. So.
Very nice, very nice. You just mentioned at the start, like your husband did the hard work of going to earn the money to feed the family and stuff. But being a mom is so much more harder, right? Like there are no weekends, it's not a
Absolutely.
9 to 5 job.
Exactly.
And being a new migrant, you didn't really have the support of a family as such. So you were just pretty much there for the child, like 24/7.
Absolutely. And it's a non-rewarding job.
Mm.
Neither the children nor the husband, ever realizes the amount of efforts which goes into maintaining a family, doing what they need, what they need. Like, because there's no need for even them for to ask or think, what they need, because everything is provided for. Um, I don't think like there wasn't a single day, even today, to till day, where they think back to check if I need anything. It's that role has never been reversed, to today. Like nobody even thinks about what I need. So it's a non-rewarding job. Um, but I think, like, having come from from a background where family was, was the what do you call it, that family was more cherished than in a career, and coming from that background, I think it's something inbuilt in. So came of something which came naturally, to nourish the family. And I think we, as a woman, I think it's also there in you,
Mm.
that nature is there in you. So I think it came naturally. But as you say, it is quite um, non-rewarding, and nobody ever understands, the amount of. I mean, it's not just about physically doing something. It's about
Sacrifices.
mentally. Yeah, like, mentally, you're every, like, for example, if I'm coming back from work, my mind, even when I'm traveling, like coming on the bus, my mind is thinking about what do I do next as soon as I get down. When I reach home, what is the next thing that I need to do? I need to prepare dinner. I need to take care of, like, all the other activities that happens. I have engaged myself in, like, in a few other activities which I wanted to do. So juggling all this, it's constant until I hit bed about like 11:30 at night, 11:30, 11:40 at night. My head is constantly, whether I'm doing physically or not, my head is constantly planning the next thing. It's constant, and I don't think uh like, and I'm not just talking about, like, not just in workspace or just at home. Nobody ever thinks that a woman does so much nonstop,
Mm.
right, and whether, she's in a workplace, even at our workplace, I think the way our head works, how we have to plan ahead, and how, you know particularly so, because, we take pride in saying that we are multitasking. So how you have to, like, plan yourself for all these other different things that you are wanting to complete. And in a world particularly where where I heard a couple of other people say, where you are always expected to prove yourself. I don't think it happens to a man. Whereas being a woman, I think whether you're a mother or whether you're at your workplace, I think having to prove is a big thing, because that's something I have done throughout my life. And I had to prove myself to my father, being a woman, for being a girl, very expected a boy. I had to prove to my father that I am much more better than a boy. I had to prove that. I had to do that same when I got married, that I am a better woman, even as a woman. Like, as I said, the comparisons which happened, I had to prove myself that I'm a better woman, whether
Mm,
I'm working or not. I had to prove that I'm a better person, that I'm like worthy of it. And that constant pressure of having to prove yourself, that's exhausting, really.
mm,
And I don't think anybody sits back. I think even women, I don't think we look at another woman to say or appreciate how much that person individually, whether you have children, do not have children, every one of us have our own challenges because for our own uniqueness, like how we are brought up and whatever our family situations are. We all have our own challenges. I don't think women appreciate women, as we should.
mm,
I think that is the biggest wonder, which I say, like, why can't we as women like and understand and appreciate another woman, no matter how different their life or their situation is. I feel there's more should be about that, women standing up for women and us supporting each other, because who can understand a woman other than a woman, right?
mm.
You can't expect that from a man.
Yeah. Now, when you began, you also spoke about your confidence, like how being a migrant mom, just staying at home, it really affected your confidence, where even going out for a walk was a challenge for you, right? Now, from there, now I know that you walk a lot and you are like, you have your own independent life, your career. What did you do specifically to shift the mindset with regards to your confidence?
As I said, Meena, I think confidence has always been there, right? Confidence, as I said, confidence is basically how you build your confidence by challenging yourself in each of the situations that you go through. I think that has happened with me quite constantly, right? From the time that I was born, to the time I got married and to the time I moved here. I think that's something which constantly comes, challenges which comes to make you confident enough. But I think the biggest move, the biggest, I think, like point, like where I really got aware of the fact that I am being looked down. I think that was the biggest factor for me, wake up factor for me to say, hey, you can't look down, because I made certain sacrifices, knowing that, okay, I'm giving up my career because I wanted my husband to succeed. Hey, I wanted to take care of my children because I didn't have a good childhood. So I wanted to give my children the best childhood. I didn't care about the money factor or my independence. I thought um, doing that would be recognized.
Mm,
The I think, as I said, I had my, I woke up from that dream is when I face that discrepancy at home, like
mm,
um when I saw that my children, again, as I said, they see me as somebody who provides them food. I'm there at all time to their bidding. I'm there all the time. I do what they want, so I'm there to provide. So, and my husband, who thought I'm like, nothing more than a housewife, again, to his bidding, I'm always there. So that kind of like was the point for me to wake up to say myself,
mm,
this is not who you are.
mm,
I understand, like, I created that image of myself for these people, but it was out of love. It was out of love and concern, and and wanting to do the right thing, doing that role. But I think like an art of living is probably basically where it has given me this knowledge also, that basically whatever we are doing is a role. It's a role play. So I said to myself, hey, all these years, you have done the role of being a wife, being a wife and supporting your husband and being a mother and doing things for your children. And I saw that there was less and less needs for them, with that role. So I was finding more and more free space. And I thought that was also kind of like, making me depressed in the fact that, I'm not needed anymore. That role is not needed anymore. So I think it was me awakening to the fact that I had to shed that role now, at least like keep it in the background, not make it as my primary role, but keep it in the background, still there, doing supporting them where needed. But I thought like I should start projecting myself
Mm,
and taking the I mean going out for doing my whether it was like taking up music again into my life,
mm,
and even going out to do my voluntary jobs. That kind of gave me the confidence back, to be back with people, that I could talk more than just not the weather and about the children, but then that I could actually involve in conversations which was much bigger than that. I think all those it was a I think it is the efforts that you put in yourself,
mm,
prioritizing yourself. That I think that itself is the biggest thing,
mm,
to build your confidence back, to believe in yourself that you could do it. And
mm,
I think nobody else could make those steps for you. They can only show you the way, you have to walk the path. So I
mm,
think it is that, that decision that I made, that I decided to come out of my shell,
mm,
that I wanted to do things for myself. Um, and doing all those, coming out back into the community and started, because if you remember, like I was very active, and though, like I was a housewife, I was like very active, and I was doing my roles with Art of Living, whatever doing, I was still very involved. But I think it was my second child. I got completely, and my husband's role in the community grew, so I kind of like completely got shut down at home. And I think like breaking that shell was the biggest thing. That was the biggest step,
mm,
deciding to break that shell, to put that role behind.
mm.
They're still, but like not the most primary role as such. I decided like there are other things that I could do.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's probably where it began. And as I said, um, it's in like believing in yourself.
Mm,
Again, I think that all comes from different places. I can't say you like, oh, this particular thing is what made me believe in myself. I think believing in myself happened all the time. I think it's the challenges which has given me those confidence for me to believe in myself, that I have, when I look back, I've done bigger and better things, that anything, in that situation seems like much pity and much smaller than what I have already achieved. So I think like, constantly looking back at yourself and seeing and validating yourself, like for things that you have done,
mm,
and I think again, like I think like my spiritual side of like, and whatever I did to, did myself to support my spiritual side also. I think that all plays a good role in giving me that confidence, there are times when I fall. There are times, I mean, of course, like, and I'm aging also. So, lots of factors which come, but understanding that those challenges also come,
mm,
but, and accepting, I think that's another thing. If you keep conflicting yourself, you're going to like, be in always in denial. That also brings lots of depression. So I think like acceptance also plays away in saying yep, okay, I can't do anything that I was. See, like I sometimes think, probably if I had not stopped my career, if I continued my career, like as soon as I came to New Zealand, if I had put myself first, and if I continued my career, I could have been much more in a better place. But that's past. I can't change it. What I can change is what I do now, right? So I think all these kind of like positive thoughts, which again has come through my spiritual journey. I think that also had played a lots into helping me and shaping me, and taking life as it comes my way. And yeah, as I like again validating yourself each time and looking at and prioritizing things, I think. um at some moment, like like for example, if my child is sick, I need to prioritize me being a mom, and
Mm.
taking care of them. Again, yeah, role play, changing it when you need it, and knowing that everything is going to be okay. It's just the clouds and it'll pass away. It's going to pass away soon. Those, I think, those positive outlooks in life, I think that is also quite important, so
Mhm.
that you don't lose the confidence of and of knowing that everything is going to be okay in the end. It's a learning experience. I think that's another thing, looking at whatever happens in your life as a learning experience, and it's going to shape you, and it's going to make you different and for better. And that's what I've seen, at least, like, in
Mm.
my life. Whatever has happened, though, when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're in that moment, things seems very difficult. It feels like everything is ending, the world is, the sky is falling. That's how it feels when you're in there. But when you do come out.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. Maybe it's not the way you want to come out. The outcome might be different to what you thought, but you do come out at the end of the day. And when you look back, it has made you a better person,
Mm.
one way or the other. It changes you for the better. That's what it I have, at least that's what I feel about the changes that I have seen so far.
Yeah. So, in summary, what I got was like for you to be a migrant mom, to get back into your workforce, being a volunteer really helped you, right? To build that network, to give you the confidence.
Exactly. I think,
Yeah.
going out,
Yeah.
meeting, it's simply as getting dressed. Like I say, even if I'm working from home, I make it a point to actually like dress up as I'm going for work, so
Mm.
that, one thing, it's a mindset, right? Dressing up, like, that makes you happy. It brings up those, good vibes in you for the day. I'm ready to take the day. And then, like, I walk out, and I don't have to change into to go out, like, I'm ready. I'm ready
Mm.
to go out any moment. Like, and going out, like, meeting people. I think it's quite important to keep shaping and like sharpening your social skills and keeping
Yeah.
connecting to people. It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be like for long time or anything, but every day, at least, like going out for 10, 15 minutes and doing something for yourself, going out, meeting people. Actually, that kind of like removes all the inhibitions that you come with. I can't talk to people. Unless you go and talk to people, how are you going to ever improve? I think it's
Yeah.
constantly working on yourself, and coming out of the woodwork one
Mm.
bit at a time. I think
Exactly.
that's quite important.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of times about spirituality. So, what sort of practices do you do and how that has shaped you?
So my biggest breakthrough is through art of living. Um, so when I had been going through shit on my life, I was traveling by train, and I happened to read an article, about Shri. And then I was reading things like, I need this, I need to, like, go take care of, see, I have also tried psychiatry, like, particularly my father. I went through both prenatal and postnatal depression with my first child. As I said, I had my first child when I was hardly 19. And with a bad marriage, and no supporting family, like, immediate family or the community. So it was quite, all a struggle by myself. So I was so exhausted by that point. And my child was abducted. So I also suffered, from that. Updated by my husband, making clear that it was my husband who took the child. So he kept him away. And in India, legal struggle is different, quite different, particularly for a woman. I mean, of course, there are loopholes, and sometimes women then, like, it all comes down to whom represents you and all that. So that's for another day. But anyway, all that had left me so very devastated. Like, I lost my child. You think like you are the mother, and you think, that's your property, he's going to be there for you forever. And that's another blow in life, right? It
Mm.
tells you, just because you made a child you brought into the world doesn't mean like he's there for you. He's gone, taken, just as he was brought into the world, he was taken away from me. So I think like, I read an article and I decided I need to go try this. And I've never tried anything, no meditation, no yoga, nothing like in my life before. But reading through that, I think it also comes from the place that I am not a very religious person.
Mm.
Um, like I mean, I come from a religious family, like, and I do come, I do have religious background. It's not that, but I think me as a person was not somebody who was quite religious. I don't do lots of prayers and I'm not that, but spirituality was something that has always there, I think, like from my childhood, I do connect to that part. So reading that article made me think like, probably this is something I can do. Like meditation. I think, okay, that sounds good if it's going to help me mentally. So I thought that was a good start. So that's where my spiritual journey began. And I think, as I said, it goes so well with my personality too. Like, whatever I learned with Art of Living. So it was like, I think I was in my early 20s when I started with Art of Living, and I didn't have to look back. So mainly is that like I do my yoga practices, I do my breathing practices that I learned and Sudarshan Kriya. Lately, like it's been a bit of a challenge, like to do everything because with this, with the time that is required to do it, like, and I do really want to like do it peacefully and quietly, which doesn't happen with as you grow in the career also, I think.
Mm.
There are lots of challenges which comes with your role growing in your career. So I wouldn't say like I'm able to like do everything that I want to do, but I do find time for myself to go for my walks and I do my yoga. Yoga is something that I've been doing since I was like in my mid 20s, like yeah, ever since I started with Art of Living. So yeah, still haven't forgotten a single thing that I learned from my first class. So yeah, for my very first course, I do everything. So those, yeah, Sudarshan Kriya and my breathing practices. And I think it played a big role, in because as I said, my parents did put me through psychiatric medication and stuff. It just made me what it's my experience. I'm not saying this could be true for other people. What that medicine did was basically because it's all sedatives, it just made me more incapable of like because I had a newborn then. It made me more incapable and I couldn't even take care of my child.
Mm.
It made me so because all the time I felt like so dizzy, wanting to sleep all the time. It didn't do me anything mentally. It didn't make me well mentally, and it made me more incapable physically, and it only added to my woes. So I think like it's going back to, going this route and again with whatever I learned with Art of Living, all the techniques that I learned there and practicing those regularly, it had a tremendous effect on me as a like both mentally and physically. There are like in between where I've lost it, lost because of, I would say like not because the techniques aren't good, but probably because of my circumstances where I had prioritized other things. But I'm glad that I'm back, back bouncing to what I have always loved to do and doing what I want to do for myself. Yeah.
Mm. Cool. So when you started, you also mentioned that when you decided that you would like to go back into the workforce, you did a course on testing, which is a technical testing program, I guess, right?
Yeah. Tech offers a 6 months course.
Yeah. So why testing? Why did you choose technology?
I'm sorry, I'll just disconnect the call. So technology is not something that was new, Meena, because when I was in India, when I was my doing my graduation, I decided to go do computer courses there, like an organization like called Aptech. So it was one of the best during those times, when I was growing up. So I went to do my course there because I saw that the world was changing, even my mom's she worked in a nationalized bank. She actually left the job because they computerized it. She didn't want to learn. She left the job because, they were modernizing. So I kind of like saw that that's where world was going to. I think like I have learned a couple of like, computer like lessons even from when I was 6 or 7 in my year 7 or 6 at school. So I knew like, life that's where, you know, the world is going towards too. So I think like I was interested in keeping up with that, with the changes that was going to come to. So I had started my computer course even then, but the only difference was I thought, I think like I think it was a misconception, right? I thought, I'm a person who loves to be around people. Or I love to talk. I love to talk. I love being with people. I love being, bouncy and happy and chatty and all that. And I didn't think, I probably can't be a nerdy person. I did have the head for it. But personally, I thought that wouldn't be for me because I didn't want to end up being behind a computer and working all the time. But look at us. That's what we do whole day. Whether you like it or not. I understood, like, though I had come out of my work, but even before I came out of my workforce, when I had worked in India, I saw that is what life, workforce is going to be, like you're going to be sitting behind a computer. And I thought when I do have the head for it, why don't, I challenge myself to actually, and I say this jokingly, women, we are good at finding defects, finding faults. I say like, if it comes to me naturally, why don't I pursue it, and make it as a career? And if I'm going to get some money out of it, why not do it? So that's how I probably ended up wanting to do testing, and I did really enjoy it. So I did clear it with a A, but whether I whether there were any fruits that I gained from it, like that's a different story. But I did really enjoy the course as such, and I also cleared my ISTQB certification. That was like a couple of years ago. Actually, haven't still landed in a testing job though. I'm like for the last 2 years I'm doing it's testing that I'm mainly doing, being a system analyst, so that's what I'm doing mainly. So hopefully in the coming years I do hope to be a completely like in a tech world rather than like supporting the admin side of it, though I'm moving away from it, and I'm very glad that I'm moving away from it. And hopefully like very soon I'll be in a role which I really will enjoy. I mean, not that I'm not enjoying my roles currently. It's all a stepping, and that's another thing that I learned, as I said, payroll. If I had not done it, I wouldn't have had the domain knowledge that I have today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like technical skills that I have. It's not that I can do a system and understand a system well, but it's also that I understand the basics of like whom I am supporting to. So that's quite unique. Like somebody who has payroll working knowledge knows what legislation does, and then I'm looking at the compliance of the system. So it comes quite handy.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's why I went in there. As I said, good at finding faults. So I thought, why not make it as a business, make it as a way of like earning your bread. So
Yeah. So, how did you get your first opportunity? Because being a mom, as you mentioned before, you were mainly at home taking care of kids, and then you took the first step by going and doing some study
voluntary
on your
works, yeah,
own and
yeah.
voluntary work. But then, how did you expand your network, and how did you manage to get this job in Datacom as a breakthrough?
As I said, that was a really it was a lucky dip, okay? So, it was not that I didn't go into the job expecting to be, like called in, for the job. So somebody like in the community, they said, there's this role being advertised. They said they also say it's good for moms coming back to, wanting to come back to career. Um, I think initially it was because I didn't have any experience, like that I found it hard, and my CV, right? That was the biggest drawback, because CVs never got picked up because it was still in the Indian style, like how I would like my Indian CV would look like. That is how it has been. Then I had actually worked with, I forgot the name, M Class. I think that is the organization which helps immigrants to actually, get your CVs done. They do it for free. Like there are people, again, immigrants, who had been in this country, who had struggled. They all help like other immigrants to actually. So I went to M Class. Somebody introduced me to M Class. So I went there. I took their help. So actually, going to them is what helped me actually to change my CV to fit New Zealand market. So I think that was because until then, whenever I sent my CV, it came back never got picked, and my CV never got picked. So having gone to him, it's not that I didn't have these skills, before. It's just that my CV just didn't get picked up. So having gone to M class, they kind of like worked with me to get my CV, get my cover letter and things like up to, and like few tips and things that they sent me through to know how to prepare for my interview and stuff. I think that helped me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
in preparing myself for um, like I did have like in a few agent interviews where I had applied for, for the different agencies for even temp jobs and stuff. So going for these interviews, kind of like by looking at the body language of the other person that when I'm talking to, so I knew which were my wins. When I'm talking about something, which were my wins and where did I make flaws? So I think being observant about those and getting their feedback kind of like helped me to get me ready for, the interviews which were, coming up in the future. So I think by doing a few flops, I think by the time I went to for my interview in Datacom, I think I did my interviews all right. And I got picked. As I said, payroll was not something that I willingly went to.
Mm-hmm.
It was something which was, available for me then. And I thought I just should pick up, rather than waiting for my dream job to come by. I'm just taking what came by. And I don't regret that. I would certainly, never regret that because, as I said, that was and Datacom that way, um, them as a payroll, like they are a payroll bureau. So it was a great place to learn my basics because I joined them during Christmas, so it was in the peak, when the payroll world all goes crazy. So I was there and I was just thrown in the middle of the sea and I had to learn it. I had to learn to swim there. So great. It was a great way to learn whatever I had to learn. So
Cool. Have you navigated, or like, how did you navigate barriers or biases in workplaces when you first entered back into the workforce?
as I said, it's, I think navigating, having barriers and having to navigate barriers was not something that started with my workplace, right? It starts in your personal spaces. I think that kind of gives you those like starting like so you don't have any starting trouble because you have done that, many a times, many a times, right? So it's just that you're doing it in a different space. And see, I probably can, be a crybaby. I can probably throw a tantrum at home. Only difference is you have to do it much more in a polished way, at your workplace. You just need to play a different, play it differently. You don't throw a tantrum, but you have to do it more professionally, I would say. So I think again, as everyone else in your podcast has said, bias is not something new, particularly as a woman and as a colored woman. It's something which comes with you, wherever you go. Um, I think the biggest, help that I think was like I always spoke up. So I was never someone who would take if somebody said me something. I mean, of course, when it happens to you for the first time, you're taken aback, you're surprised by what happens. But I've always stood my ground. I think that I was not ready to take and being thrown out that way. Even if I'm going to fall, I will fall only at least like giving an effort to fight back. It's not that I was going to go down without giving a fight back. So I think that made a big difference that you're confident enough to say, like, even my first job, like I at Daracom, so I had to put a fight when I actually got my next job, right? I had to put a fight back to them saying, whatever happened there. Like I said, I had to put a fight back to say, why did you fail me? Prove to me as to what and where did I go wrong? Have this been discussed with me? Why did you fail me? So they had to compensate me for the whatever loss I suffered and all that. So I think like biggest factor is I know it's scary. Like, I was scared actually to leave my job and I mean that when I started there, that was my first full-time paying job. And I was scared, to think if what would happen if I lose this job because I was starting to feel, confident. I was starting to feel that, like what do you call that? that I was something, that I've become someone by being having that in financial independence. And I was so afraid to actually like what would happen if I lose this job. So I was like clutching to it as if like, this is my straw, I need to keep clutching to it. And I think it's lots of pressure, having to put yourself through to say, I'm going to lose all that I gained if I lose this job, so that makes you actually quite vulnerable.
Mm.
That when people say that you are wanting to hold on to something, actually people do take you for a ride, when they say. But I think uh, uh I think it's because I also stood up, though I was quite vulnerable, and I did want to keep my job, because that was my stepping stone to whatever was coming, um forward. But that didn't mean I was going to let myself be shunned, made small, so I think fighting back, not necessarily, we don't have to be loud, you don't, but, standing your ground, talking for you and speaking for yourself. I think that's quite important, particularly when you are in spaces where you can be so easily um, be overthrown. So,
Mm.
staying there and having that confidence in yourself that, I'm doing the right thing. See, as long as you're not doing anything wrong,
Mm.
why should you be afraid of anything? You know,
Mm.
the the worst that could have happened out of that, what step I took for myself is to lose the job. And I was ready to lose the job anyway. I said, but my self-respect, it's not, I'm not talking from a space of ego. Of course, ego is there. Your ego is hurt when somebody, puts you down. So, as if you mean nothing, it does affect you, but more important than that, it was like, I am going to stand up, and this is not right. I am going to stand up against this. I think you need those whistleblowers in places, in workplaces,
Mm.
not just for yourself. You should have the courage to stand up for others when something happens to others. To stand. If you don't voice it, sometimes nobody knows about it. Sometimes as I said, it's also done out of ignorance. So unless and until you voice it, it's not going to be known. So I think it's important to be able to voice and stand up for yourself and for others.
Mm. Great. How has your cultural background influenced your professional life? Has it been a challenge or benefit for your professional life?
I think it's a bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
It challenges in the sense that our country, like, it prepares you as a worker, right? It doesn't prepare you to be a leader. It prepares you as someone who is always, readily there to, like, serve others. So that's, like, particularly as a woman, you are expected to do, desk work, facilitator. As a facilitator, you're never seen as a leader. So, that is the challenge that it presents to you, because you're always a yes person. You're somebody who is wanting to, facilitate others. You don't actually think like you need to facilitate yourself too. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to change, like, that you need to challenge yourself. That is not something which is taught for you. So that's certainly, like, I find myself, I'm a active listener. I like to, it's nice to be able to talk and share your opinions, which doesn't come naturally. I'm not an extrovert. I'm quite an introvert, and doesn't come naturally for me to sit there and voice out my opinion. And particularly doesn't happen when in a room full of people and there are other people who are loud. And I'm happy to actually, listen and learn. And that was another thing, right? Like, because I didn't have the exposure and I have been out of the career for a long time, so much things had changed by the time that I went back to my career. So much things. So there was lots of learning also, and lots of unlearning.
Mm.
Right, in a new country, when you enter into a workforce in a new country, there was lots to unlearn. Right, lots of what your culture taught you. Right, as I said, you're not, you as an employee or as a contributor, you are expected to contribute here, not just as a silent listener, not just somebody else who takes notes and goes, and does those things, but as somebody who could come out with ideas, like, be a like somebody who contributes, into growth of the project or the organization or whatever you're doing. That's a kind of like a different outlook from what you are an employee back in India.
Mm.
Nobody expects you to contribute anything. You're expected to do what you're told, right? So that was, I think, like a big change. And that was a big challenge, having to break that and to be able to express myself and it come out, even if it is the silliest idea, to talk, just to speak out was
Mm.
a big challenge for me. When I started off in a career, like as I said, even to talk out when I talk to people when I went out, to talk other than for the weather, I didn't have anything to talk. So having come into a new space, learning new things, and as I said about, I was also jumping jobs, so I had to understand business to even to start contributing to things, right? So I had to develop those skills about understanding in a very short term, in a very short time, as to what is the business about, or what is the project about, what are they're talking about, and how can I contribute there, how can I be an active participant when I'm in meetings rather than like just being sitting there and like just nodding off to what others are saying. But I think to start with, I also needed that, to be quiet, to learn, to listen and learn from others. I think that's a great opportunity to, if you do not have that, if you do not have mentors, if you don't see others as mentors, and if you don't learn from them, you don't grow either,
Mm.
right? And then you're full of just you and yourself and your ideas, right? So you learn by, not just from contributing, but also sometimes by listening, by being an active listener and understanding where people are coming from, and shaping your own ideas, right? Like, I think, yeah. So as I said, yeah, it was both ways. It was a two-sided sword. There were many a times when I felt like, oh, I could have done something, I could have said something, where initially that was not something that I could do, to speak out and to speak in a room full of people and to bring out my ideas. I was like, oh, what if this is silly? And I wouldn't speak anything. I just wouldn't say anything in the meetings and stuff. And even to say, like, if your manager is something, I come from a place where if manager says something, you do it, right? To step up and to say, no, if your manager says something, they are saying their ideas. I'm always welcome to say things to them also. Oh, you're saying this. Can I do this way so that this can be better, maybe, to contribute your ideas. And yeah, so I think that's something which I had to learn. So yeah, and other things, probably it's the resilience, like that you learn, and like culture also, like, as I said, different to, I think, what I see is from others, like, from other people here in the workforce, is that with my background, is that, as I said, I'm not resistant to change. I love changes because I know that change is what challenges me, and that's what helps me grow. So that comes kind of like natural for me, that I'm happy for change. Something changes, yeah, changes. Stress, what stress? You know, not that I don't have stress, but what is the use of being stressed about stress? You do your best. So I think all those things are something, I think, which my country has given me, or my culture has given me. Because if you are in a culture where everything was there for you, I don't think you'll be able to, like, I think that's even in your personal life, right? If you grew up with being sophisticated, and if you had everything in life, then if you're faced with challenges, you will find it very hard to navigate those challenges. But if you grow up with challenges, then everything that comes in the way, it's like, that's just another challenge, you just need to navigate it through. So I think, yeah, it's been like, yeah, both the ways.
Yeah, cool. So, have you had mentors in your career?
As I said, Meena, every other person in the room was a mentor. I think I love to observe people. I love to learn. I love to learn even from my children. I learn a lot of things from my children. I learn a lot from my dog too. I have a power dog at home. I learn from him too. I think learning is a ever, like ongoing process. And I don't think I stop myself like saying this is only from this person that I learn. I think every opportunity that presents, every other person, gives me something to learn from. Like, for example, when I'm playing quiz, we would do stuff quiz, right? Like, and then what I see is, they having grown in a country which was very textbook oriented studies. I do not have gender knowledge, right? And like when my colleagues go about, stuff, when there's a stuff, because when there's question on the on the screen, and these lots of information that I learn just from that question, like lots of discussion which goes on. For example, like it could be an old movie which I do not have anything about, right? Like particularly an English movie, of course, I wouldn't know anything about, right? And lots of information which comes just by being in that group, just talking about doing a stuff quiz. You learn a lot from everything, every single thing around you. But I think it just comes with the fact that you need to be open for learning, and that you shouldn't shy away just because, see, I do not know most of the things which comes up on the stuff quiz, right? But I'm inquisitive about it. But I'm interested sitting there and learning whatever I could learn in that 5-10 minutes that we spend on the stuff quiz. So every other person is a mentor, Meena. As I said, even my children, I learn, my boys, like they teach me lots of things. And I do think, every opportunity present to you is a learning experience, and whoever presents to you is your mentor. So yep, everybody has been. And I think I have been so very inspired, by the women leaders here in this country. So, like people, probably because of the cultural difference, that you come from a place where women comes in the second position to a place where women freely, express themselves, and makes things happen. So they have been truly inspiring. Yeah, I've learned a lot, and I think like I do get inspiration from them, and I do try to bring that into my life, and to use in my career and in my personal space too.
Very nice. What advice would you give to other migrant women of color who are aspiring to enter and grow their career in New Zealand?
I know like everybody could be different. But I think like the best thing you for is to, as I said, networking. This is a very small country. Here people grow by networking, and I, I think like it's your cultural, upbringing which stops you. Many a times I think that is what divides you. I think it's important to, particularly when you're moved out from your country, when you're no more in that culture, I think it's important to widen your idea about culture, and not be stuck in your little pot of whatever was true, is to know that, okay, that is one world, yes, but now I'm in a different world. This is a different culture. What is this culture offering me? How can I use, my skills from my culture and whatever I know from my culture, and how I can adapt, you know, in this country with its own culture, because it has its own rich culture too. How do I adapt myself? How can I learn and contribute into that culture? How can I become one with that? I think that's important to drop those boundaries that you keep yourself to. It's important, I think. That's a very important thing, to be able to connect with other people. I know we have our inhibitions. I know we will have our starting troubles, but if we don't do it, if we don't put our first step forward, it's not going to happen. Nobody is going to do that for you. It's in you. You need to go out. You need to do what you need to do, and to take help. I think that's one thing our culture doesn't teach us, to take help. It makes you feel like if you ask for help, you are weak. It's not. To learn that to ask for help is very important, and only a strong person can ask for help, and not the other way around. And to take help when needed, whether it's in your personal space or in your career space, and to stand for yourself, not to think yourself any less or more and more than the other person. I think either way, it's bad either way. To know that you're all one, that as I said, sometimes, many a times, I think it's ignorance, then I'm very happy to be me. Like if you like, like people, I do wear Western wear because that's the protocol of the work that I go in certain way dress, but that doesn't change me as an Indian. So I'm very happy, and I am very outspoken about my identity. I'm very proud of who I am. I never put that behind me. I say them, that is whatever my identity is, what has given me entry into this country, right? It didn't give me entry because I was trying to act like a New Zealander. No, it gave me entry because I'm still an Indian, and I came with all my, good qualities of whatever my country gave me. right? Whatever privileges I enjoyed in that country and whatever it has made me into as an individual is what gave me entry into this country. So I shouldn't look down at it either. So I need to keep that as my base, and then add whatever other layers I do want to add to me. Not losing your identity and not being ashamed of who you are. You are who you are, and then build upon that. To be confident about who you are, I think that's quite important. And not to feel any different to to others who are here. I think being in a New Zealand, like most of the population are migrants. If you look at it, people, whether it's short term, long term, most people are migrants, right? So I think you just fit in. You just understand that you're not different, not lose your identity, but build up. Build on. I have learned lots and lots. As you said, we have to learn and unlearn few things. Learn things which will help you grow. Unlearn things which will stop you from being one with the country that you are in, because I think that's quite important too, to fit in. And there's a story about somebody, people, there's a kingdom, and this group of people come in who are wanting to come. They have left their place, they are wanting to come and live in this country. So they send the headman, the king, and the king's men come to ask, why are you here? And the headsman, and they said, this place is already full. Why are you here? And then the headman of this group of people who came in, the king sends a glass of milk, and the headsman, he looks at the glass of milk and he goes and he adds sugar to it. So then the king's messenger takes it back to the king. The king tastes the milk, and they, invite the people in. So it's country is full. I mean, this country has its own culture. It has already, we can't change the culture of the country or the people, right? It's only us who can change. So what the headsman said was, okay, I know you're full to the brim, but then we are like sugar, we dissolve into this country like the sugar, right? And making it more sweeter, making it taste better than how it was before. I think that's quite important to actually to respect, your own culture, and also to respect the culture that you're coming into, because now you are trying to make this home. So fit in, not necessarily I'm saying fit in a negative way, but fit in a way that it makes it more better, make it better than, if you're going to leave this place, leave it better than it was before.
Cool. Looking back, what are some of the proudest moments in your life, in your career especially?
In my career especially is that I have come far, long way from where I started. And I when I jumped jobs, it was just a jump of faith. Every other role that I took after my first Daracom role, everything was different from what I did previously, because it was either new system. The payroll legislation could be the same, but the business was new. The systems that I had to learn was new. I think that itself is the biggest proud moments for me, that I was able to jump different jobs, learn different systems, all in a very short span. And looking at my CV, and though New Zealand people might not agree, and it's because it's been less than a year, or less than a year, or less than a year, like in most places that I've worked, in a very short span, that I had to learn whatever I had to learn. And being open for that challenge, and always wanting to learn, being inquisitive, and wanting to challenge yourself, learn. I think, yeah, that itself, I'm very proud. I didn't know I had those qualities in me until I jumped it. I did it. So I didn't know that part in me until I started doing it. So by the time I did my third job, I was like, okay, this is something I can handle. So yeah, that, and being from full-time mother to wherever I am today. I'm not discounting what I did as a mother, because it was it was the best moments in my life. I have enjoyed every single moment of being a mother, and taking care of my children. I don't think those days are ever going to come back. So and I do cherish those moments, and I'm very proud that, and I did that also. But yeah, but being very happy that and I am going, more towards my dreams. It's not, I didn't let the challenges which came either like physically, whatever I had, my menopause, for example, I just started the new job, when I started with Orangan Tamariki, my menopause stopped and I started. Like I was like, okay, new thing. All right, okay, new job, and I have a new phase in life. Okay, that was a challenge. I had to take it up. And from your recent, like one of your recent conversation, it's a very difficult conversation to have, particularly when you have a young and male manager to talk to talk about, not putting yourself feeling like you're incapable. It's not that. I can't control what's happening with my body. That doesn't make me any less, or less important, or it doesn't make me incapable. It's just that I need the support, asking for that support. Yeah, so I think that's one of my, because I did hear, how many of us can actually step up and talk about that, and ask for the help and support that we need, and not seeing yourself as incapable and not up to it. I had to talk to my manager. I said, look, I'm going through some hard times. I don't know what this shit is because I haven't experienced it before. It just happened to me when I started this job. I didn't expect that. I started, and now I need to go through it, and I need your help. Now I'm not going to be able to do it without that. And I said, many women, they do like leave their careers behind when menopause starts. And I said, I am not ready for it because I started my career late and I'm not ready yet to call it quits. I want to keep and I do a good job and I want to continue doing a good job, but it needs support. Not every day is the same for me. So I need you to understand that. And as I said, it's ignorance. He said, yeah, I do not know because I do not have your body and I don't understand it. I say, that's why I'm speaking to you so that you can't say tomorrow, like you didn't know about it. And I'm talking to you because I want you to know I'm not in a good space right now, but this is not permanent, and I'm trying my best. Whenever I'm feeling good, I'm going to do my best. When I'm not, then I need your support. I want you to know. I think that's again like recent proud moment was that to talk about the changes that I'm going through and standing up for it and voicing up, saying like I need support, asking for it.
Awesome. I can't believe that it was just few years ago you could only talk about weather.
I know. It's very interesting. Like, I look at myself and I'm amazed. And I think that's another good quality. Like, it's not about feeling, oh, I did this. No, I'm amazed. I'm amazed that all these qualities were in me. And I'm sure like life is going to still bring out many other qualities which I still am not aware of. I'm sure life is going to challenge me in many, and I'm very ready for it too, I think. I will take it one at a time and as it comes to me. Yeah, growing every day, I think, growing every day. Yeah, every single opportunity is a growing, it's a learning opportunity, challenge for yourself and growing. And I think that's an important mindset. I think many of us, particularly, I see a lot of people, who lack that mindset. I think it's quite important to have that mindset to say, look at you positively, to see things as not something which is stopping you, but rather it's only a passing cloud, and you're going to come out. It's going to shape you better. I think that's an important mindset to have.
Mm. Amazing. Really nice talking to you, Indu. And your story of being a migrant mom who lacked confidence, who was shy to talk to people, to someone like you now moving jobs, growing up in your career despite your menopause is just absolutely amazing.
Thank you. And I think, and as I said, it wouldn't have happened. And I should also say, I know like there are like not all workplaces are equal. And there are like places where I worked, I had to move, willingly have moved out because the culture, I think culture is quite important. And in a space where technology is changing so fast, if organization do not, gear themselves up for the change, and change culturally, because leaders are quite important factors in cultural change and from the top. And if you do not have, because I worked with, as I said, public sectors, and I have worked in a few public sectors where they are so very resistant to change, if you don't change, you're going to be left behind. So if you want to be a player in a whether like as you as an individual or as an organization, it's important to bring those cultural changes, be inclusive, and like and embrace, whether you're a boomer, like all these different things that you have today, people talk about, like, whether you're a boomer, it doesn't matter that you're a boomer, like, of course, I say my children, you have a head, you have a roof over your head because we are a boomer, you wouldn't have it like if you're not, you're sleeping comfortably because of that, even when somebody calls you boomer, you should have the confidence to say, hi, I'm a boomer and I have these qualities. What about you? To challenge, to not to lose that positive view about yourself. You age, of course, age gracefully. Age is, everybody is going to age.
Mm.
Who is in the 30s may not realize it now because they're in their 30s, or like my teenage children, they don't realize they're going to be old one day. I didn't either when I was. So just knowing that, it's just being positive about it, and there is this unchanging factor inside you. Keep holding on to that unchanging factor, that child inside you, and I think that helps you. That remembering, and embracing the child inside you actually helps you with changes which comes in, because and if you start looking at from a rigid shell, I am old, if you start looking at yourself as old and incapable, and I think that is what you will end up being as. So for me, I think, personally for me, having that outlook that I am capable, I might not be able to do it as easy and as fast and as good as it when I was 20 or 25, but I can do whatever I can do at my age. I think that saying that to yourself all the time, seeing not yourself any less. Yeah,
Good.
I think it's a huge asking on yourself, but I think it's quite an important, important factor.
Very
Yeah.
nice, Indu. Thank you so much for your time today. It was truly nice to hear your journey from India through to New Zealand, and good luck for everything in future.
Thank you so much, Meena. It was nice talking to you. I know, like, we have spoken many a times, but this, I truly hope, like, people do find, because I find it very informational, like, what your podcast, like, I truly love them. I love listening to all these different, as I said, every other person, is a mentor for you, looking at people like that, looking at their experiences, learning from them, taking those, like all these points that people give you. I think it's quite important. Like, if particularly if you are in wanting to be growing and learning, it's quite important to have that openness, to accept. Of course, we all have different experiences. We might not nod to everyone's, comments. There might be something conflicting, but taking all those good things which comes, with, and I really love listening to your, all your people, whoever have been there so far, have been amazing. So many things that I've learned from them, each of them.
Cool.
You're doing a great job.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Meena.
you so much, Indu.